Today I'm going to share 5 rules that will help you make money online without being a scammer. So let's jump in. Tell me if you've heard this story before. You're scrolling through social media and you see someone talking about how they became a millionaire. They share how they grew up in poverty until their life completely changed when they discovered this secret new business model. And curious to find out what that business model is, you start consuming all of their content. And by the time you finish all of it, you're convinced they found the secret to becoming a millionaire, and you're ready to max out your credit card so you can learn their ways. But before you sign your life away, you'd smartly decide to do a little bit of extra research, and you realize something. That rags to riches story they told, it was completely made up. The creator had invented that transformation as a way to sell their program. Unfortunately, online education, and especially the make money online space, is full of people like that. But not everyone is a scammer. So how do you do things the right way? Well, the first thing to understand is that if your rags to riches story is legit, you should absolutely lean into that. The problem is not sharing your transformation or selling your knowledge. It's stretching the truth to make your offer more compelling. So, rule number 1 is to always tell the truth. By the way, if you need help getting to a point where you're actually making money as a creator, I've created a free monetization roadmap that you can download using the first link in the description. Another way creators get into trouble is by making outlandish claims about their product or service. And this can be explicit or implied. For example, if you promise that someone who takes your course will get the exact same results as you, that is an explicit claim. On the other hand, an implied claim is when you don't specifically promise something, but it's implied by what you say. For example, if you say something like, if you're ready to quit your job and earn full-time from social media, this course is for you. That is an implied claim. You have not specifically promised a result, but it's heavily implied from what you said. It's okay to share testimonials and believe your offer will help people, but be careful about promising results, otherwise you could run into trouble later. Make it clear that your offer is based on your personal experience and that in order for someone to see results, they still have to put in the work themselves. That's why TV commercials or other advertisements often say stuff like results may vary or results not typical. So, rule number 2 is don't make promises you can't keep. Another common mistake is selling a product or service just for the money. A creator sees that someone made millions by selling courses, so they throw one together and start selling it to their audience. But when their audience buys the course and starts taking it, they quickly realize the creator had no intention of actually helping them, and it was just a cash grab. Not only is this a lame move, it's also a type of scam because you haven't delivered on what you promised. So the way to combat this is by delivering on the expected value. Don't just create a course because it's a good way to make money. Create a course if you think it will genuinely help your audience. And this applies to selling a service as well. Sometimes people will say stuff like, oh, that creator is a scammer. They're just trying to get people to sign up for their program. But if your program actually works, it's not a scam. So rule number 3 is to always deliver the expected value. When someone pays you, they should come away feeling like your price was a bargain because of how much value you delivered. That being said, despite your best efforts to deliver as much value as possible, some people will still be dissatisfied. It could be the best product known to man, and someone is still going to be unhappy with it. So, have a refund policy. That way, if someone has a bad experience or your program doesn't work for them, you just give them their money back. For a digital product like a course, I've often seen creators offer a 14-day refund policy, or I've seen creators with coaching programs offer a full refund if they don't achieve the desired result. Not only does this lower the risk for a potential customer, it also shows that you genuinely care about helping people and aren't just in it for the money. So, rule number 4 is to have a generous refund policy. All right, so the first 4 rules apply largely to educational creators, but this last one applies to everyone. One of the easiest ways to make money as a creator is through brand deals, where a company pays you in exchange for you promoting their product. And when done correctly, these partnerships are beneficial for both sides. The creator receives compensation and credibility, and the brand receives a good return on their investment. However, if a creator partners with the wrong company, the potential impact can be devastating. For example, if you partner with a company and then that company ends up being a scam, your reputation is going to take a hit. So while it can be tempting to accept any brand deal that comes your way, especially when you're small, a little bit of extra research can go a long way to protect both you and your audience. Now, obviously, in the case of something like Honey or FTX, things seemed to be legit initially, and then we didn't find out what was actually happening until later. So there's not much you can do about that, and I think that's a little different. But if someone comes to you promoting a meme coin or some other speculative investment, it's a lot easier to tell that that's a scam. Something I like to do when a company reaches out to me is do a quick Google search. And what I'm looking for is whether they have a website, what other people are saying about them, and whether other creators have worked with them in the past. And that 5 minutes of extra research can save you from a big headache. But an even better way to do this is to only promote products that you actually believe in. Each time you promote a product to your audience, there's a risk that you could decrease your audience's trust in you. And that risk is higher if you aren't familiar with the company. But if there's a product that you already know and love, you can promote that to your audience with a lot more confidence. So rule number 5 is to do your research and be careful what you promote. All right, so now you know how to do things the right way, but how do you get to a point where you're actually making money as a creator in the first place? Well, don't forget about the monetization roadmap in the description, but also you can click the video on screen to learn how I would make my first dollar if I started over.